All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters. We have several panelists today. Dennis Newberry, who is the product manager for TrueSight Capacity, and Maria Riccelli, who is a technical marketing manager. Dennis is going to speak to the features and the functions and the value, and Maria is going to help you provide you with demos of each one of those features. Folks, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Seth. So first of all, thanks to everyone who joined today. I really appreciate your attention to this. I wanted to quickly start by just talking about where TrueSight Capacity Optimization is going in terms of overall direction and strategic initiatives. And you'll see a lot of the content in this 11.5 release aligns to these 4 areas. So first and foremost, capacity has been an industry-leading solution for more than a decade. And as a result, we've gone through a number of acquisitions, and we've brought multiple products together to create TrueSight Capacity Optimization today. And as a result of that, we want to make sure that we're continually looking at user experience, making sure that all of the workflows that we have in the product are still relevant, that they make sense, and that the overall user experience is a good one for the user. So you'll see a lot of focus around user experience in particular. One of the other core areas of focus for us has been around provision of self-service capabilities, specifically around service planning and service-aware planning. So you'll see a lot of focus there. So one of the trends we see in the market is more and more development happening in the lines of business. And what we wanted to do was really engage those stakeholders, the service owner, the application owner, in the conduct of capacity planning at the early stages of development. So we're extending capacity optimization to those stakeholders and providing self-service capabilities in a service-aware context. The third area of focus for us is really around container optimization. So we've provided, optimization recommendations in capacity today for physical and virtual environments, storage, network, and so on. And we're going to be extending those capabilities into containerized environments so that we can provide similar optimization recommendations for microservice-based architectures running in containerized environments. And then finally, kind of as I mentioned, the product's been in market for quite a while. So we're continually looking at how do we modernize the platform, bring more modern, both architectural updates to the platform, making it more modern, but also bringing in new modern technologies into capacity as well. Next slide, please. So kind of aligning to those 4 themes, you really see, this is just a bulleted list, I guess, of the capabilities that we added in Capacity Optimization 11.5. The first of which, at the top there is the ETL Dev Kit. We'll talk about each of these in more detail, but the ETL Dev Kit really allows you to create a DevOps workflow around custom ETL development, which many of our customers have been asking for. Second, we've containerized the VPA agent or the capacity agent that allows you to get process-level data while running agents on specific devices. So now you can run that as in a container as well. And then probably one of the biggest areas of release for 11.5 was around business service views. So as I mentioned before, we're looking to engage new stakeholders to capacity, specifically service owners and application owners. So the first step in that process is really to give them views that they can use in order to understand the health of their overall business services relative to the capacity applied to them. So we'll talk more about that, and Maria will also provide a demo. We also added capabilities around ServiceNow, ServiceNow, so you can bring in data from ServiceNow, both from business driver data as well as overall service context. If you're using the ServiceNow CMDB, we can get that data in as well. And then looking specifically around just sort of usability, we did multiple updates with regards to custom views. So almost all of our customers today are using custom views today. That's one of the real strengths of the product. We're continuing to iterate on adding new capabilities to custom views. So we have a couple of updates specifically to talk about there, as well as updates to our Web Investigate capability. So if you've been a capacity customer for a while, you know that we added the Web Investigate capability back in 11.0. This release, we've added some additional updates around RBAC controls and so forth, as well as the ability to manage studies. We also brought in OpenShift support. We've extended our OpenShift coverage beyond 3.12, and we've added a new Prometheus-based connection to get data from 3.12 and beyond. So prior to 3.12, OpenShift was primarily using Heapster as a means of getting data. So we've extended our coverage to include both Heapster as well as Prometheus-based collection. And then finally, the last update I'll talk about here is the all-in-one storage ETL. So each of our storage ETLs today is primarily based around a manufacturer. So going forward, we're going to be using this all-in-one ETL, which has a simplified configuration. So essentially use one ETL to manage all of your storage requirements. So in this release, we specifically targeted Scale.io and a couple of other storage providers. But going forward, you're going to see more and more of our storage ETLs migrate into the all-in-one storage ETL. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to go into service-aware planning and specifically talk about the business service view. So as I mentioned, this was kind of the largest area of focus, I guess, for 11.5. And really what the business service view is aiming to do is really expose self-service views to the service and application owner and bring those stakeholders into the capacity management discipline. And really it's focused around helping the service owner identify the overall health and risk of saturation to their services relative to the amount of capacity that's applied to those services. So Maria's going to go through a demo and really kind of dive into these in a little bit more detail so you can see them. But really the core focus was providing, one, a high-level overview of the overall health of the services from an enterprise perspective, but also when you see problem areas, the ability to drill down into those problem areas and really understand where within your business service and or application you're having saturation risk so that you can prevent having performance degradation in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Maria to jump into the first demo.
Thanks, Dennis. So let me now jump on my demo environment. All right. First of all, in 11.5, as Dennis mentioned, we introduced this business service view, which is an out-of-the-box view that can be accessed in TrueSight console through the capacity entry here in the tree on the left-hand side under views. So once you're there, you get a high-level view of health and risk of your business services. And as you can see here, this is structured in what we can call different quadrants. In the upper part, you see on the left-hand side a nice summary, which brings you the information related to total business services available that you are managing thanks to TrueSight Capacity Optimization, and also the forecasted saturation information. On the right-hand side, you also see a specific chart, which is saturation by service importance. So this is a really nice chart which summarizes all your services and break down them by the importance level, which can be customized by accessing the settings page. So, for example, in the settings, there is a tab related to business service view, and is where you can first select the tag type, which is needs to be attached, which is mandatory, and needs to be attached to each business service that you have defined in your console. And you can also, for example, change order for your, importance level that you select to be applied to your view and change the visualization of your data. And this, as you can see here, is, quickly applied as a change. In this chart, all the business services are grouped together by importance level and then also by data saturation, which is split in different chunks. So now, in the bottom part instead, before to drill down from this view to a deeper level, I wanted also to explain the information displayed at the bottom of this view. First, on the left-hand side, you see there is a pie chart which shows servers by providers. So in essence, does provide you the information about how many instances you're managing associated to your business services with respect to the different platforms. We do support on-prem as well as AWS, Azure, and Google. And in the middle, you have a user chart which is able to tell you how many services are using resources at a certain level. So, for example, you can immediately see that we are using 8 business services with 60% of usage. And then the last one is the risk pie chart, which does provide you the information related to health and risk, as of course related to business services. So from here, you can get information related to the percentage of your business services, which is in an healthy status as well as in warning or in a saturated status. Now, given this overview description, from this main page, you can drill down. For example, let's focus on the critical services that we have. We see that we have 3 different critical services, and we have some resources that are saturated already. So first, we are provided here with the list of all the critical services which are saturated, and you can also expand each of those to visualize the different applications that have been defined as part of a business service. Please keep in mind that it's not mandatory to have applications defined as part of a business services. So, for example, in the case of procurement service management, you don't have any application defined, but you still have some service pool defined as part of the business service. Now, we have introduced in 11.5 the concept of service pool. And so let me now explain you what is a service pool in a few words. It's an aggregation of different VMs on the basis of a specific criteria within a business services. So in a business services, you may have one or more service pool defined. So for example, a criteria could be the application tier. So and in this example, you see that in procurement service management, we have a web pool, an application pool, and then a database pool. So that's just an example on how you can aggregate your instances within a business services in service pool. Now, given this, description of business services as a group of different service pools, from this view, we can extrapolate many different information. First, which is the global level of usage and risk for each business service. Second, which is also the usage and risk for each different application, if there are any defined under each business services. And third, you can also see which is the level of risk that have been identified for each business service first, and then for each service pool as part of the business service. So what's the meaning of, having those 2 information? Well, the usage indicators does help you to understand how much you are using of the capacity that have been allocated to a specific service. And then, of course, this is split by different service pools. Then, in addition, we also provide the risk, which means that, the tool is able to tell you how much you are close to breach the threshold that you have set on your service pool, and in particular on the instances that are associated on this service pool. So those are the 2 flavors of information that we are getting here. So from this level, we can select one of the pools that we wanted to investigate and drill down. So for example, let me drill down on the application pool, which was associated to the service application within the customer support management business service. At this level, I'm provided with a summary with the number of VMs associated to each pool and information related to use, breakdown by CPU, memory, storage, and information related to risk, also breakdown by CPU, memory, and storage, and a utilization chart over time. Which is able to show information related to CPU memory and, in essence, the disk usage. From this view, we can also jump on the Servers tab to get additional details on the different elements that are part of this pool and understand what is going on with each of them. So first, let me expand one of the 3 VMs that is associated to this pool, from which I can really mouse over each of the indicators that I'm provided to understand why I'm getting those values. So in essence, for example, the usage score is 62 in this case, because it's a combination of CPU, memory, and storage with specific weight that are being used to compute this value. And if we mouse over the risk, we can also get information related to this one. So in essence, risk is due to 97 because the total risk is the maximum value between the CPU, memory, and storage risk values. So this explains a little bit why you're getting those values, and you can also drill down and see which are the different contributes by the CPU, memory, storage risk scores, as well as the ones related to usage. So from here, I can further drill down on each specific VM, which is part of my application. And in this view, as it is in the other out-of-the-box infrastructure level view, I'm able to get information related to CPU, memory, disk, and network over time, and a nice summary coupled together with recommendations, which are actionable information that you can use to resize and save capacity. So for example, I'm getting a forecasted saturation in agreement to what was already forecasted at the business service level. So you notice that there is really an ability to, start from the very high level, which is a business service level, and go through until the infrastructure element, which is the VM associated to each pool included in your business services. So with that, I'm done with the business service view demo.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. So as Maria transitions back to the slides, we're going to shift into discussion around user experience. And there are 3 specific updates that I wanted to talk about today with regards to overall user experience, all of which are related to custom views. So as I mentioned before, almost all of our customers are using custom views today, and there were a couple of updates in particular that people have been asking for. The first of which is the ability to drill down and really understand business drivers. So for example, if you're bringing in data from, let's say, Dynatrace, and you're interested in end-to-end response time, that particular metric would be a business driver that you could build a custom view around so that you could see the behavior of that particular business driver over a fixed period of time. Also gives you the ability to really do an at-a-glance analysis of any business driver essentially that you have available to you. Next slide, please. The next update, or I guess this is technically 2 updates that we provided in the Data Mart Explorer template, were really around the creation of a new chart type called the category chart. This is much like kind of like a pivot table where you have the ability to aggregate one dimension and then see the performance and relative size of that dimension over time. So this was specifically requested by a number of customers for the ability to really show 3 different data points at the same time. The second area of focus here was around the ability to bring in multiple types of charts into the same graph. So having the ability to really build some complex custom views with the combination of both the category chart as well as the ability to bring in different chart types together. So this is another area where Maria's going to run through a demo and show you this in more detail.
Thanks, Dennis. All right. So as Dennis mentioned, in 11.5, we introduced 3 main updates in the custom view creation. First, I wanted to refresh how to create a new custom view within the TrueSight console. So in essence, in order to create a new custom view, you need to go into the menu and point the administration node here, and then go into the admin capacity views and click on Add View. With that, you can, of course, choose a name for your view. So it could be my new view, as an example. And you can select also a view group of your preference. In my case, I will keep the default, which is custom views, and you go next. At this point, you are presented with the page view template catalog, from which you can select the type of page that you are going to configure within your new custom view. In this case, I'm going to pick the Business Driver Data Explorer template, which is the new one that we added in 11.5 release. And then I will click on Create to start creating my new view and configuring my new page. In order to configure the Business Driver Data Explorer template page, you need first to select the business driver type that you would like to display in your view. You can, of course, customize all the labels. So, for example, I can say business KPIs, and then customize all the different tabs that you are going to use within your page. So it could be an overview. And start configuring the different charts that you have in your tab. First, I'm going to select the metrics that I wanted to display in my view. In my case, I'm going to select the total events as metric associated to my business drivers. And I'm going to select, for example, a bar chart as chart types. And I can also, of course, set up a specific title for my chart and click on Apply. At this point, as soon as I click on Save, I'm done with the configuration of the first chart. Please note that in order to select to display content, you need specifically to select a business KPI from this menu, or you can also point a specific domain of interest that you have in mind when you have collected some business drivers, and select that one, and at this point say Apply, and you are presented with the list of business drivers that are associated to your domain of interest. At this point, you can select one of them, and your chart will be automatically populated. Of course, you can always revisit the configuration of the page and decide that you wanted to configure an additional chart. So now you have 2 options. You can, of course, select another metric and configure all the different properties, or leverage one of the analysis template that you may have defined in the TrueSight Capacity Optimization console. Please note the analysis template is something that you will need to do in the TrueSight Capacity Optimization console, and it's not something that is out of the box, so you will need to create an analysis first and then save that as a template and use it in the view. But at this point, once you are done with the template definition, you see that you don't need to select any other property to be set in this page. You can just click on Apply, and you are done with the configuration of your page. So those are 2 examples of output and data that you can display as related to a business driver within a page which is based on the new Business Driver Data Explorer template. Now, let me going to show you the other 2 updates that we had as improvement of custom view creation in 11.5 release. Those are both related to enhancements that we released as part of the Data Mart Explorer template page. So again, from this template catalog, I'm going to select Data Mart Explorer as template, and I'm going to show you the 2 enhancements that we included. First, I'm going to select my data mart to start configuring my first chart. And in this case, I'm going to use my data center VM summary by region data mart. This data mart is able to show me which is the number of VMs that I'm using, the total number of VMs that I'm reserving, and the total amount of VMs between used and reserved that I'm using within my data center, broken down by region. So given that premise, I can, for example, let me show you the category bar chart first. We have included the category chart, so the ability to select category chart instead of time charts to display your data. So first, I wanted to show you how it looks like as time bar chart, and then I wanted to revisit and show you the effect of the new visualization. So as a first exercise, let me now pick my metrics and let me save it. So at this point, you see that I still have, this is a time chart. So on the x-axis, I have the time, and I have all the series represented with bars. Now, with the addition of category charts that we did in 11.5, I'm able to select, instead of time bar chart, for example, a category bar chart. And as a result, if I apply this change, you see that I'm able to visualize my data broken down by region instead of being displayed over the timeline. So this is really cool because it provides the ability to improve the visualization capabilities of your data. And in this case, I'm able to visualize my VMs by region. Then another addition that we did was the ability to show in the same chart different chart types. And this was done to, of course, improve the visualization capabilities even in this Data Mart Explorer template. So as part of this one, I'm going to show you two examples to let you understand, how this was a good improvement to visualize your data. So first, I'm going to use this new data mart, which is representing number of instances that I did plan to turn on with my AWS accounts versus what I'm really using. So as part of this premise, let me now first configure, so one second. I wanted to use, for example, a stacked bar chart this time, and I'm going to select my metrics here. At this point, once I'm done with the metric selection, I can save, and I'm able to display the results without using a single chart type. So by using a single chart type, you see that I have the total planned, which is summed up with the rest of VMs that I'm using on my AWS accounts. Now, in order to improve visualization of my data, I can leverage the ability to display two different chart types in my chart. And this is done by selecting Display As, the new chart type, which is area in my case. So again, click on Customize related to each metric, and then pick a different chart type and save. So you see that immediately you are able to have a better visualization because in this case, for example, you can easily compare the total planned VMs versus the total VMs that I'm using, and then also stacked by different VM types, which is really powerful, I think. And the same capability is also available in the category chart. So if I edit my chart and I, for example, click on Customize for the total VMs that I have, I can select another type of chart and in essence, I can save, and you see that I'm using both a line chart and a bar chart. So with that, I'm done with the custom view updates demo.
Excellent. Thanks again, Maria. So as Maria shifts back into the slides, we're going to transition to discussion around data integration. And two different updates here. One, BMC discovery integration, and the second update will be around ServiceNow integration. Both of these updates are really in the focus of service-aware planning or service context. So BMC discovery integration in particular. So we've had the ability for a long time now to do CMDB level integration with our own CMDB, but we've had multiple different customers that are using our more modern BMC Helix discovery, and which doesn't necessarily need a CMDB in the middle between discovery and our current capacity product. So really the focus here was a direct integration with discovery and capacity optimization so that we can bring in the application context and really take advantage of the relationships between the infrastructure and the business service and application from the perspective of discovery. So as discovery runs and finds updates, we have the ETL that will pick up those updates and automatically update your service context and capacity. So this is extremely powerful. We really wanted to address our discovery customer base as well by bringing capacity capabilities to those users as well. Next slide, please. So similarly, we have customers using ServiceNow as well, and ServiceNow was a focus for us in terms of that same narrative around service-aware planning, service context. So with our ServiceNow integration, much like with our discovery integration, we bring in the application model from ServiceNow, and we're able to bring in performance and business driver data out of ServiceNow into capacity for the conduct of service-aware planning. And really, we have a means of mapping those fields from ServiceNow into TrueSight Capacity. So I am going to turn it back over to Maria again to do a couple of new demos here.
Thanks, Dennis. All right, so this time we're going to move on the TrueSight Capacity Optimization console to show you, the capabilities that we have introduced, those two new integrations that we have introduced in 11.5. I'm going to start, showing you how to configure and use the integration with BMC Discovery. First, in order to configure the new ETL module, which has been released as part of 11.5 for integrating BMC Discovery, you need to access the ETL task under ETL and system task in the administration section and select and choose to add an ETL. So this, of course, is similar to what you do usually to configure the other ETLs. Now, the difference is that now you're provided with the new discovery integration, which allows you to leverage data APIs instead of leveraging, data coming from the discovery tool that were, put together in CSV files. So this is really powerful. So you are presented, of course, with the list of integration available, and you will need to select the BMC Discovery 11x extractor. Then you see that the data sets are already pre-selected, so you don't really need to do anything in that panel. If you expand the entity catalog, this should be a shared entity catalog because thanks to this integration, you are going to import the business service hierarchy if there are business services defined thanks to manual group definition on the discovery tool, and of course the applications and the related system associated to applications. And then object relationship, of course, you can select a domain name when you wanted to collect your data. And then the main thing is really the discovery extractor panel when you need to configure the, credentials and the URLs. So let me pick my credential and include it as part of the ETL configuration. So first, you really need to use your API URLs, and then you will need to use a user which has API access. And this is something that you do on the discovery tool itself. So while configuring user settings, you will need to specify this as an API access right. And in addition, you can see that you can also specify if you wanted to create the business service hierarchy based on manual group name. So until you define a manual group on the discovery tool as a service, this will be imported as business service in the capacity tool. In addition, you can also specify some manual groups as tags, like, for example, an up tier, and those will be also imported automatically once they are set on the discovery tool. And I will be showing you an example of that. So in essence, by filling this with this information, you are done. And you can, very quickly run the ETL. Of course, this should be not in a simulation mode. And in order to save time for my demo, I already did a run of the discovery, and I wanted to show you the result that we can revisit once I'm done with the definition of new business services and application on the discovery tool. So the first run that you see that I did import some application data. So I have different applications defined with different servers associated. And also I have some business services defined, which means that some manual groups have been defined in the discovery tool itself. So as part of that, you see that I have different applications that are associated to a specific service. And of course, this kind of hierarchy, as you can imagine, can be used to populate the business service view, which we have displayed earlier in our presentation today. So let me now jump on the discovery tool. On the discovery tool, as I already told you before, first, you will need to make sure that you have your user that you are using for the integration configured to have API access, which you see that we have at the moment. And then what you can do is, first, you can explore data that you have and notice that you already have, for example, already 5 applications available that have been imported. Now, you have multiple options. You can define, first, for example, a new application. So let me, as an example, drill down on host list and select a few of them. I wanted to select a few AWS VMs and group together them in an application. So first, we can visualize the infrastructure relationship, and we can see that they are part of a single application already, which is in essence a WordPress, could be a WordPress application. Now, as part of this journey, what we can do is create a new application model based on this selection and say that this could be the WordPress application, and save and publish this new model so that this will be imported. In addition, we can also explore data and, for example, browse the different applications that we already have and say that we wanted to group together, for example, the WordPress application with the SharePoint application in a single business service. On the discovery side, this is done by defining a manual group that could be, for example, a new service that you are defined, and you can put here a name and create it. At this point, if we go back on the capacity side and go in the administration section under ETL, we could be running the ETL, and we could be noticing that it will be starting discovering something new that we defined. So, as I said, this is very quick, and I wanted to really show you that in practice to notice how it is quick. It takes, a few seconds to process the new, transaction that we just ran, but it's interesting to see the result in the tree. So if I now access the workspace and I refresh my tree, I should be able to see the new customer support management service, which I defined as a manual group, and under that, the SharePoint and the WordPress application with the 2 VMs associated. All right. And this is a really nice result. So once you have that, you can use it to really do service-aware capacity planning. In addition to that, I wanted to show you the result of the integration that we have introduced in 11.5 with ServiceNow. We have a new ETL module related to ServiceNow, which is part of the Service Plus license, the Service Plus license, and you can, in essence, put in place the ETL to import all the different business services that have been defined on ServiceNow, and import the different entities and service that have been defined within your service. So I wanted to show you just some example of entities that we can import. So thanks to this integration, as it is in the case of the discovery, we can import configuration metrics. For performance metrics, you will need to, in essence, share the catalog with performance ETL to be able to, in essence, use this data and to do many different things, time forecasting model, reporting, and also populate the business service view. So that's, in essence, what I wanted to show you as related to this new integration that we have included in 11.5.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. So there are a couple of additional updates in terms of new capabilities that we're bringing in with regards to data integration. So specifically, wanted to talk again about the storage all-in-one ETL. So I mentioned this kind of in the opening. Really the key around the storage ETL, or all-in-one ETL rather, is really to help mitigate the overall proliferation of manufacturer-specific ETLs that we had, really with the three objectives in mind. First of all, we wanted to address ease of configuration. So the configuration is based on a YAML configuration. The second area of focus for us was around reducing the amount of time it takes us to bring new devices to market, or the integration with new devices to market. So essentially increasing our overall velocity. So how quickly can we, when a new flash array becomes available and we want to bring in data for that, how long does it take us to turn that around? So with the all-in-one ETL, that time is reduced significantly. The second, or I guess the third thing really is around just ease of patching. So when we have issues with ETLs, the turnaround time for us will be significantly better using this new all-in-one ETL approach. As I mentioned before, the three solutions that we started with were EMC VMAX, EMC Scale.io, and then NetApp SolidFire. Those three technologies were added with in this first release. And overall, we're going to be converging the existing ETL estate for storage into the all-in-one ETL. We're going to continue to support all the existing storage ETLs indefinitely, but over the long term, our overall strategy is to add everything essentially to the all-in-one ETL going forward. Next slide, please. So another key update was around extending some new capabilities around Kubernetes. So 3 specific updates. The first of which I already mentioned, which was really enhancing or extending our support for OpenShift. So OpenShift has kind of become the de facto standard, I guess, for on-premises Kubernetes distributions. So with OpenShift 3.12, they embraced Prometheus as the main monitoring solution, and we've enhanced or updated our connection method to take advantage of Prometheus as well, while, in reverse, supporting Heapster for 3.11 and earlier. The other 2 key updates here are around the importing of labels. So Kubernetes has this notion of labels. We import those labels as tags, and then we allow you to take advantage of those tags, i.e. Kubernetes labels, for filtering views when you're looking specifically at the Kubernetes view. So you can filter the view based on those labels going forward. And then the third and final update was really around the ability to see persistent volumes. So when you're in the clusters view, we allow you to drill down from a cluster to its attached persistent volumes. All right, next slide, please. So now shifting into some platform modernization updates. Next slide, please. One of the key areas of focus. So about a year ago, we announced our intention to deprecate Perl as a means for developing custom ETLs. When we made that announcement, we got a lot of feedback from our customers, and there were a lot of customers that are still using Perl actively. That announcement was really based around our overall ability to support Integration Studio, which is based on Eclipse for Perl, because there's limited support in Eclipse for Perl today. So we changed our strategy and then decided to maintain Perl. So we are going to continue to support Perl, but we're doing so through the ETL Development Kit. So now with the ETL Dev Kit, you have the ability to build custom ETLs using your own IDE. So it's a bring your own IDE type of environment for both Java and Perl. While we're going to continue to support Integration Studio for Java, Perl support will only be provided through the ETL Dev Kit. So this really is the first step of a 2-step process which allows you to develop entirely outside of Integration Studio, and longer term, we're looking to add the ability for you to not only develop with your own IDE and your own source control system, whether it's Git or SVN or whatever, but in the future, we're going to also allow you to, using those same tools, import your custom ETL and activate it with the tooling outside of the capacity interface itself. So the main update here is Perl support for custom ETLs going forward is only provided through the ETL Dev Kit. Integration Studio is supported for Java only, but Java was also provided through the Dev Kit as well. Next slide, please.
Hey, Dennis.
Yep.
Just rewinding for 1 second, we've got a question from Jackie about Kubernetes, and she's asking, do Kubernetes labels and their tags come in automatically, or do you have to manually identify them?
They do come in automatically through the Kubernetes ETL.
Great, thank you.
Yep. All right, and then finally, I mentioned this in the opening, but we've essentially taken the capacity agent that's available today. So today we have essentially 2 methods of bringing data into TrueSight Capacity Optimization. One is through the capacity agent, which is primarily used for process data, process analysis. And then the second way is through ETLs and through ETL engine. What we decided to do, we have some customers that have thousands of agents deployed today, and we wanted to provide the ability to simplify essentially that deployment, but also the upgrades and updates to those agents, make that far easier. So we've containerized the agent so it has complete parity with the existing install-based agent, but basically it's just provided through a container. Now this is congruent with our overall, capacity optimization. We have a larger project around run and reinvent for capacity, which has an architectural roadmap and an architectural plan that gets the entire product onto containers at some point in the future, but we wanted to start at least with the agent so that we can simplify the administration of that agent. And with that, I'd like to advance to the next slide. I'll turn it back over to Seth and as well as turn it over to you guys for questions.
So Tony asks Dennis, how does the license work for the containerized agent?
Yeah, there's no difference in terms of licensing for the containerized agent. If you have license for the agent today, there's really no change there.
Here we go. Gary is asking, can application groups be defined into ADDM via ETL and then business services exported to TSCO? He wants to tell Discovery that there's an application, that an application is these 3 hosts via ETL. So I think he's saying, can you tell Discovery via the ETL? Okay.
Right.
No, I mean, application. Go
ahead, Maria. You can handle it.
Yeah, and then you can, add maybe. So applications needs to be defined on the Discovery side. Okay. And then also manual groups needs to be created on the Discovery side. So once those pieces are there, then the ETL is able to retrieve all this information and translate it in the business service hierarchy and the application hierarchy. But we cannot define anything within the ETL itself. So the ETL is able to import what has been defined in the Discovery side. So Dennis, not sure you want to integrate.
Yeah, no. I was just going to say essentially the same thing. So it's effectively a pull-based integration. The application group context is set at the Discovery in the Discovery product, and then we take whatever is defined there as an application group and bring that in as a service model or a service group within Capacity.
Yeah, that is something that I can also add. So if you create a manual group on, for example, on Discovery for specific VMs, and you say, for example, and you specify that manual group as an up tier, and for example, application, web, or database up tier, then once you import them in CO, this will be translated as tags, and on the basis of those tags, if you are going to use the business service view, the service pool will be automatically created. So the concept of service pool is something that we have introduced, and is something that will be automatically created on the basis of the deployment of the business service view. So in essence, once you define the business service view, and you select, the business service domain of interest as part of if there are any up-tier tags, will be, a service pool will be automatically created on the basis of that, in addition to default pool that will be created also in the case that there are no up-tier or other type of tags attached to the instances.
Okay. All right, so here's Jackie's question, and if you guys can see the Q&A, Dennis and Maria. She has all her data set up as a business service application with servers. She tries to create the service pool. She has a service pool. But then the data and metrics are not displayed in the business service view. So I guess it's a question about how data flows once you define.
Service. Okay. First, the service pool are created once you deploy the service view and configure the settings in the service view. So, I don't know why she.
Yeah, it sounds, in this case, Jackie, it sounds like a support case, honestly. If you have, like Maria showed in the configuration, if you have this service defined in the workspace. Yeah, so maybe you can show it again. So.
Yeah, let me show an example.
Sure.
So first, let me go into the view itself. So once you deploy the view, this is empty, okay, and you are guided to configure it. Configuration means that you need to go in the settings page and explicitly select the business service domains or all the domains that you wanted to use to create service pools. Otherwise, you don't have any service pool in the workspace. And if you do remove these domains from the settings, all the service pools should be automatically deleted, and you should be not having anything in your workspace. So in essence, you need to select some domain of interest and make sure also that you have a tag, which could be an importance tag or whatever tag you want, attached to the domain of interest. Otherwise, you won't be seeing anything in the view. So those are the prerequisites. But in essence, once you select the domains in there, you will be noticing, for example, I did select the on-prem business service, so let me focus on this one. Under this one, I have different business services which are tagged with, for example, the importance tag, which is critical in my case. And under each of those, I have the service pool that have been created on the basis of tags that you have attached to the instances. And by the way, if you don't have an up-tier tag, the default pool will be automatically created, okay? So it's not a mandatory thing. And same for other services. So that's the way you see that here, for example, in the customer support management, I don't have tags attached to those instances, up-tier tags, I don't have them. So on the basis of that, a generic, let's say, default, what we call default service pool was created. And once those are created, metrics are computed automatically because there are some rules that automatically compute the aggregation of metrics and also automatically compute the indicators that are attached and associated to each service pool. And those are leveraged to populate the view. So that's the way it works.
It looks like we might have had the light bulb moment for Jackie. She typed in "oh," so I think maybe you. So Jackie,
I touched something.
Yes, perhaps if that worked, great. If not, feel free to engage us on communities, and we can follow up more and try to avoid having a support case.
Excellent. Thank you, Jackie. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
And Dennis, I've got another last question about the relationship in terms of licensing between Discovery and TSCO. So Abe says, he's got Discovery licenses for 400 servers and 250 licenses for capacity agents. Is the ETL allowed to import on the basis of what's discovered or what's restricted in TSCO? How will that work? Do you know?
Yeah. So there's no direct relationship between the licensing between Discovery and capacity. What I would say is that, if for example, if you have an application group that has 300 servers and you're licensed for 250 in capacity, then you would wind up having more than 50 licenses over, or 50 devices over your allocated usage in capacity, because the license is based on count of servers under management. So that is something to be aware of as you import devices from, regardless of the source of that data, whether it's agents or ETLs or whatever. If your license is based on server count, then that's something of consideration for sure.
Okay. Sounds like, Abe, that sounds like it might be a more specific conversation that you might want to take up with the, if you're still confused or if there's still issues, take up with the account team so we can get straight on that. All right. Well, we've run 6 minutes over. What I'm going to ask is if there are any other questions, please feel free to engage us on the communities where we post the recording. So everybody who attended will get an email with a link to the communities event. I will post the recording with a link at that same location, as well as the presentation. It takes me about a day to get it up. And then please feel free to share that with friends or colleagues as needed. And I want to...
Yeah, Seth, sorry to interrupt. I wanted also to mention that there are some resources available for them to learn more about 11.5 release content. So we have out, of course, the product documentation, but we also have out publicly available the product trial together with additional auto videos focused on 11.5 topics. And we also, as you mentioned, we are available on the capacity optimization space on BNC communities. And we have also out additional materials on our corporate webpage, www.bnc.com/capacity. So that's something that I wanted to mention.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that, Maria. All right. So